I'm Rob Followell, the CEO of the Followell Company. Welcome to our Ignite Leadership podcast. Our special guest today is Dr. Foster Expose Jr., PhD. Dr. Foster is the head of physician leadership development at UC Health System in Denver, Colorado. Since 2006, Dr. Foster has been a valuable asset working for various organizations and health systems across the nation. He has facilitated over 50,000 leadership training hours on topics such as organizational culture, emotional intelligence, psychology of teams, communication strategies, and workplace conflict. He has led change initiatives for Fortune 500 companies and coached nearly 200 physician and administrative executive leaders. While working in healthcare since 2014, Foster has led the creation and delivery of 18 leadership programs for administrative and physician leaders across corporate entities, Children's Health Systems of Texas, UAB Medicine, and MD Anderson Cancer Center. Demonstrating a servant heart and true desire to help others, Foster coaches and advises physicians from a place of authenticity. With deep expertise in organizational and human performance, he leverages brain science to enhance organizational effectiveness and influence change in his work with teams and administrative and physician leaders. As an international speaker and leadership expert, Dr. Expose serves as the president and chief learning officer for Men of Color Leadership Conference, an annual international conference that he hosts under his company, Black Eagle Productions. With his success as an industrial and organizational psychologist, he has been counted in the elite group of the top 10% of his profession. Let's welcome to the podcast, Dr. Foster Expose Jr. Well, Foster, welcome. I gave a little bit of your background in the introduction, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, thanks, Rob. First of all, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity, and I'm so glad we had a chance to reconnect from our previous panel early this year and late last year, I should say. A little bit about me. I'm in Denver, Colorado. I was actually born in Mississippi, but migrated to Texas at the age of 4 with the family. Educationally, I'm an industrial psychologist. I enjoy helping with human performance and change management and talent management in the work environment. One of my passions is photography. You can see some of the pictures behind me. I just enjoy serving and taking care of others, which is why I went into psychology 15 years ago. So it's been an interesting ride, I should say, having a chance to practice industrial psych in various industries. So yeah, that's good.
Well, Foster, you have been a part of some pretty impactful organizations along the way. What's really been your driving force throughout this process, this journey?
I'd have to say it is really taking care of others. A great deal of my work has been in organizational development, and that's looking at how organizations impact those who are actually performing the other services to the organization, and also the actual product output to clients. So anytime organizations go through change, or if we're having conversations around updating policies or procedures, or even with new leaders, that has been the driving force for me to make sure that those who are in the work environment have the best experience as possible. Because as Rob, we both know, we spend 40, 50 hours a week at work. And in essence, that's our home. We just sleep or we pay rent. So the opportunity to make their work environment more efficient, more cohesive, and also helping leaders navigate the uncharted waters of being in a leadership role and how to effectively build their teams has been my driving force.
You mentioned change. We have seen one heck of a change in this last year and a half or so with COVID and the pandemic. What have you seen as far as change, the impact of COVID, and what do you see for the future?
That's a great question, Rob. What I've seen so much over the past year in terms of change is we have a huge leadership deficit. across the country. A lot of people that are stepped into leadership roles find themselves not being able to um, have those crucial conversations, being able to lead and navigate through this psychological pandemic that's coming and this clinical tsunami, COVID-19. Um, how to provide that safe space for the employees to say, "Hey, boss, I'm struggling," or "Hey, boss, I'm burnt out," or whatever. I've seen a lot of leaders struggle with just that human side of leadership. Um, and that's the change. That's the change that they're experiencing that, okay, for so long, I've just been managing processes and procedures. And now I've got to get into this touchy feely side of emotional intelligence and empathy. I don't know how to do that. So I've seen a lot of them go through that metamorphosis, if you will, over the last year to cultivate and grow that skill to be able to impact their team members by being more of the empathetic leader and caring leader that they need to be.
You mentioned the word tsunami.
Hmm.
What do you see down the line from a psychological standpoint? In addition to your earlier comments, do you anticipate some big changes coming for organizations, for people, or you think we're beginning to come out of that now? We've seen that.
I don't think we're out of it, Rob. I don't think it's truly hit. That clinical tsunami of COVID-19 is still swirling, even though it's starting to subside, it's still swirling. But what's on the heel of that is a psychological pandemic. All of us have experienced COVID-19 differently. So I may look fine, but inside something else is going on. And leaders have to understand that pre-pandemic, their teams had a specific DNA, experiences, all that stuff they brought together to make the team. Now that we're starting to get back into the work environment, that DNA is different. So leaders need to understand that my team members may look the same, they're different. The other piece to this, Rob, is the psychological contract is different now because what employees needed from employers at one time is different now. Everyone's looking for flexibility. Can I have a hybrid work environment? Can I do part from home and part back at work? I'm looking for a leader that's more sensitive, more of a servant, more caring about me and not just me getting the work done. And organizations or employees, if we are looking for the exact same thing, for employees to be more flexible about the work environment, more flexible about those specific goals or metrics we have to hit. So that contract for both sides is different going forward. And leaders have to understand that, yes, they may look the same. You've got your two shots. Something else has happened to that person inside. So you need to be prepared for that as a leader.
Wow. It's scary to think about what may come, and it's going to take leadership to get us through that. So
Absolutely. It's the time where we have to take off that manager hat and make sure that servant hat is on tight and we're taking care of people. One of the quotes I was thinking about earlier before we had this conversation was, I have to be able to understand my people, to listen and have those relationships so now I can truly lead them, because now it's going to take being able to listen, understand, apply empathy, now that you can lead.
wow, that's very impactful. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
In your career, in your life, where do you feel like you've really excelled?
That's a great question. I've been in healthcare for the last 7 years, and I have to say, for me, I've truly excelled in working with physicians. There's typically a stereotype out there, or a saying that physicians learn best from physicians. Not a physician. I'm a psychologist. Um, so I've broken through that glass ceiling, if you will, and been able to build those relationships with those physicians. And I think there's just something there because I connect with them quickly and I gain that trust and I'm able to work with them. So that has been a huge success for me. But also it's very humbling as well because these are very intelligent individuals and they have dedicated their lives to taking care of others. So for me is I'm honored that I can take care of you because you're taking care of others. Now let me take care of you. So it's been an honor for me.
Awesome. what are some of those leadership principles, theories that you have really lived by and led by?
Servant leadership is extremely important to me. As I mentioned earlier, leadership is all about serving others. So that's one of the guiding principles or even a value that I hold near to myself of being a servant. Integrity. The work that I do as an organizational psychologist, I have to be honest, and I don't make any decisions or make any recommendations without seeing data. So when I talk with leaders, they know I have done my analysis, I've understood the data, and I'm providing the best course of intervention to them to fix the issue. So integrity, servant leadership, and then also honesty. One of the things that I never do with my leaders as an executive coach is to employ what do you want to call it, the emperor with no clothes on. I would gently tell you, you're missing your shirt. Everyone's telling you you're fine, but I would gently tell you, you're missing your shirt, and here's why you're missing your shirt.
Hard to have integrity when you don't have that honesty. Sometimes it's brutal honesty too, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It takes courage. It takes courage because I'm not a C-suite executive, but it takes courage to have that conversation with that COO or that executive vice president and say, "Here's where I think you missed the mark."
Given your comments on the last question, I think I already know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
Because I ask it of almost all of my guests. I think it's so telling too, and it's one of those things that makes you take a step back and reflect and really hone in on who you are. If you had only one word or one phrase in some cases, but one word that you could use to describe yourself, or at least who you aspire to be, what would that one word be for you?
It would have to be servant. It would truly have to be servant, because if I leave this world today or even tomorrow, and I take whatever little bits of nugget or wisdom I have with me and I go away with it, I haven't done my job because I haven't shared it with others to prepare someone else for the seat that I sit in as well.
Awesome. Another question that I ask of almost all of our guests, and it truly means so much to me because I have been so fortunate in my own life and career to have great mentors, but most of us have mentors and have had mentors along the way. And we owe such a debt of gratitude to them. And I've had people that I've asked this question to, and they've said, I don't want to really answer that because I'm afraid I'll leave somebody out. And so I'll give you that option. But have you had great mentors like that? And kind of the follow-up question to that is, what lessons have you learned from them?
It's a great question. I too have had several mentors in my career, but there's one I have to really give praise to. My graduate school mentor, Dr. Donald Minnick, phenomenal individual. He's a clinical psychologist and he does a lot of industrial psych work. And I have to say that I owe a great deal of my career to him. I remember in 2009 when the economy tanked. I didn't work for like 15 months. I was working on my dissertation, and he sent me a copy of his book. It was called Surviving Downsizing. And I read that book, and I still use that today whenever things look kind of shaky to me in the work environment. I'm always adding value to whatever I do. And that helps you to survive that downsizing because of the philosophy he shared in that book. And I remember, Rob, I think it was 2016. I went to San Francisco for summer vacation. And there's this really nice long tower. It's called the Coit Towers, like the top of the city. And if you ever walked the way getting up there, it's a long way and lots of hills and valleys to try to get up there. When I got to the base of the Coit Tower, and as I came around that right curve, we locked eyes. I hadn't seen him in years. And I braced him and hugged him so hard. I said, I owe my career to you. I had a chance to meet his wife as well. She said, so you're Foster. I've heard a lot about you. So that tells me that we both had a genuine connection and that he shared my journey, things that I've experienced in my career with his wife. So that's the power of mentoring that I have to say. And I owe him so much. And I truly, truly thank him so much. So many others have poured into me as well. but he has been that number one.
Awesome. Yeah, we owe so much to our mentors, and we owe it to others to become mentors and pass that along to others, and to honor our own mentors. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
if you had that opportunity to mentor a younger foster,
Mm-hmm.
if you had that chance to give advice, a piece of advice to a younger foster, what piece of advice would you give?
I would tell him to go for it. I know that younger foster had the huge desire when he finished. I think it was right at undergrad. Graduate school in 2006. He wanted to go straight to New York City and work because he loved New York, and he still loves it today. And but he was playing it smart and say, well, I don't have a job that can support me to go up there. I don't want to get up there and struggle. So let me just go ahead and find something here, start working on my PhD, and then pursue it then. But if I were in front of him right now, I would say, go for it. Go for
You know, rarely do I ask that question and anybody says, you'll play it safe.
it.
The biggest regrets that people have are not taking those risks, not stepping forward, not having that faith to do it, not trusting yourself. So that's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've
Yeah.
mentioned a couple of books already. Are there favorite books or quotes that are really meaningful to you? And if so, why? What makes them that?
So I have to stick with one. There's several that I like, but there's one that means the most to me. Is from a role model that I have, General Colin Powell. In his book, he talks about, in the book, I should say, it worked for me in life and in leadership. And in the book, he says, quote, always do your best. Even if no one else is around or looking, you're there, you're looking. So don't disappoint yourself. And that, when I first read that, that stuck with me, because every year, one of the things I love to do for myself, I go to New York for Christmas, and I like to get a searing hot cup of coffee and go sit in the middle of cold New York City, in particular Central Park. And I think about the previous year. What did I achieve? Where did I drop the ball? Again, no one else is around but me and my thoughts. And how can I take those areas where I dropped the ball and grow for the next year? And then reading Colin's words, that just stuck with me. And so I do that continuously now. How can I improve and do things different and better for myself?
Fantastic. What a leader Colin Powell is.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that's something that all of us should do. Jim Rohn, who is I never met him, but he's certainly a mentor, you know, through books and CDs. Back then it was tapes.
Mhm.
He always said, you know, don't get through the day, get from the day.
Yes.
And to take the time at the end of the day to reflect on the day and who did you meet and what did you learn and what could you have done better? And then at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the year. And so kudos for you for taking that time at the end of the year to go where you want to be and to sit and with your own thoughts and reflect in that classroom of silence.
Absolutely.
And be there.
And you have to be intentional, Rob. You just can't say you're going to do it. You have to actually do it. And then when you have that conversation with yourself, and that real conversation, I should say, and you make your list of 2 or 3 things you want to focus on, be intentional about addressing those 3 things and getting the tools you need to cultivate that skill and move forward. Yeah.
So you have had such an incredible career up until now, but what's the next chapter going to look like for Foster?
Great question. I just turned 48 a few months ago. So I think for me, the next chapter looks like me being able to contribute at a higher level, possibly building some mentoring programs. I do mentor, but actually building some formalized mentoring programs that I can give back, finding some funding, if you will, to help support that and give some meaningful experiences to some kids that are coming up. Maybe take them somewhere to experience a part of history and learn some things there. It's more than just me sharing wisdom with them, but let's also talk about some history and learn some things and how you can take that history and make it apropos to what's going on in your life right now, and then also move forward as well.
Awesome. Well, that mentorship and being able to take that next generation I mean, that they are the future.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. And we need so many more people like yourself that are willing to step forward, be a mentor, and help make that next generation of great leaders. You know, and leaders don't have to be, you know, running for office or C-suite.
Yes.
You can lead wherever you are. So
if you can influence, you're a leader.
And wherever you are, you can influence. That's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any closing thoughts? And before I ask that, if people want to learn more about you,
Sure.
How can they do that?
Sure. Thank you for that. Right now, my website is in the process of being updated. It was created 4 years ago, so it was a little, lots have happened since then. So it's in the process of being rebuilt. So when it's up and running, it should be mid-June. Is drexpose.net. You can follow me on Twitter under Foster Expose Jr., or you can send me an email at coach@drexpose.net.
Awesome. Well, any parting thoughts? Anything that we haven't touched on that you want to share with the audience?
Just understand once again, this psychological pandemic that's coming is going to require you as a leader thinking about the book from Kuzes and Posner, The Leadership Challenge. They say leadership is an affair of the heart. And now's the time for you as a leader to really tap into their heart and take care of others.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Expose, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. And thank you for sharing your thoughts, your wisdom, your insights. I know that our audience will benefit from that. And if no other comments, I'd just like to again say thank you. And for the Followwell Company, for Rob Followwell and the Ignite Leadership Podcast, make it a great day.
Thank you, sir. It's been an honor.